Hello everyone. As the title states, I want to like this game so bad, but it keeps reminding me how rough it is. Every time I have fun, something happens. Either crash, some part of the game that doesn't make sense, doesn't work, or it's a straight up downgrade from the 2020 edition. But it's not all doom and gloom as the Steam and YouTube reviews tell you, and hopefully I'll put things into perspective for you, the viewer. Quick note here, I'm not a pilot nor I'm very good at this. I always feel the need to have this disclaimer in my videos where I cover simulators because of all the pilots covering the game. But this is a plus in my opinion because I'm not invested in the sim that much, so I can say whatever I feel with no constraints, you know. And disclaimer number 2, this video will have some negativity. So if you are allergic to negativity and want to hear only happy thoughts and get positive vibes from YouTube videos, click away because I'll rant a bit about parts of the game at least. Now, enough with that. In free flight, I had fewer issues than I had in the career, but one recurring nightmare that's preventing me to fully have fun are the avionics in some of the planes. I can't load the flight plan from the tablet sometimes. Other than this, the weather seems better in this mode, so I strongly recommend you use something like NeoFly or a Pilot's Life to bring your career into free flight, you know, if that's your thing. No point playing that game mode at the moment, the career, I mean, because a number of reasons. I covered it all in these videos. What can I say? The career at the moment is not very fleshed out. It's messy, buggy, some stuff doesn't make any sense, so activities now. Some of them are here. You have some flight training, which is cool, but could be a lot better. I'd like to see competent training missions on old school navigation and some other stuff. I feel like instrument navigation is about to get lost in time because every plane nowadays has competent avionics and glass cockpits. And there are the races. I might try this at some point, but they are not my cup of tea. Low altitude flying, but for some reason most of them involve the FA-18 Hornet, so landing challenges, and these are cool. I always say I do some landing challenges, but then I don't because I enjoy more flying around the world. Compared with 2020, I feel the activities need a lot more content, but yeah, it's a decent start, you know. Where are the bush trips, guys? Why I can't do any bush trip? About the content that's actually in the game, I have the premium deluxe version. That means 25 more aircraft on top of the default standard edition. So yeah, what I'm talking about here is planes. Some of them exist in 2020 also. Times it feels like a downgrade when flying them, you know. From the sounds to the avionics and cockpit lighting, I'm sad to see most of the default aircraft in the sim are just okay. None I've flown so far come close to AccuSim Comanche 250 or the Flight Simware Chancellor, for example. Two of my favorite general aviation aircraft in 2020. Some of the planes in this sim surely lack a soul, you know. They lack in the sounds department, more on that in a bit. And they sure lack in the little touches department, you know, like camera shakes when starting the engines or when you're at low revs, some panel vibrating, etc. These kinds of things. Even if something is not realistic, remember we have no feedback. And again, AccuSim's Comanche did such a good job with this. Some of the planes are pretty cool. I'm not saying the default planes are bad or anything, but it's clear some of them are rushed and have little care and attention dedicated to them. And I'm not talking about visuals, by the way, because everyone looks cool with highly detailed textures and models. A good thing compared with the last game at least is in career all planes seem to have wear and tear enabled, with a lot of components that can break and cause different problems during flight. Now bring that to free flight also please, especially because I like certain things in certain aircraft. For example, the instrument lights in the PC-12. I have to tone it down every time I start the sim, and it's annoying. I want that level of persistence, so the state of the plane is kept between flights. People say the ATC is as bad as in previous game, but I wouldn't know because I fly without it most of the time. Also, there is no bush flying in this game. I want my bush trips back, and please this time let us choose the plane we want to complete the trip with. I wish we would have that and the game would let us pick whatever plane we want to use for those bush trips, you know, and not lock us on some weird planes now nobody wants to fly, like is the case in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. If I want to use a Draco on all of them, please just let me do it. I found the plane restriction in 2020 very bad and made me not complete a single official bush trip because they all locked you in planes that I wasn't interested in, you know. Now that I talked about bush flying, I have one more rant about the career, because I found out today that in order to do search and rescue missions, you need to pass 2 helicopter certifications for some fucking reason. Yeah, even if you don't want to fly helos. This is dumb. Jesus. Who thought this is a great idea, guys? So if I come to the specialization page, it says I'm good to go. But if I want to go create a company, I actually can't. I don't want to do medevac with the caravan. Please. Please, not the caravan. I have a video about that one too. So you cut the bush trips from the activities, then you put this behind helos in the career. Got it. Moving on. And the last thing on this section, the disk space, streaming and loading times. Well, this is pretty bad. At rush hours during the nights in Europe, I often get this message and I sit there and load for a couple of minutes. I have a decent and, more importantly, a stable internet connection, by the way. It's not fiber optics, sadly, but it's the best I could get in this part of town. I said it in another video, but I'll say it again. Just give us the option to download all those 2 terabytes of data. Just do it. Now, the planes. All planes have some sort of bugs. Even if it's something trivial, there's always something. The Cessna 152 is the most, how should I say it, bug-free aircraft, along with the 172. All the rest have certain quirks, you know. Either some useful feature not implemented, like the lower prop speed button in the PC-12, or a certain plane is unusable with the sim rate, like the caravan I talked about in this video, or the A400M who kills you on everything more than 2x, or the most annoying ones, the avionic bugs, you know, when the avionics don't recognize the stars or some of the waypoints you try to put in there. And the last thing I want to mention here, I see a lot of people are using the argument that it's okay with the free planes not having big parts of the cockpit functional. Because poor devs, am I right? Well, I hate to say it, but this is the reason it happens. I mean, you are the reason this happens. If we don't up our standards, it will never change. Besides, there's no such thing as a free plane. Anyway, this was one of the mini rants I had about the community of this game. Besides a few things like this, the flight sim community is pretty relaxed and cool, by the way. I love it, for the most part. If you're following the procedures, that is, the moment you slip up, they take the pitchforks. But seriously now, we are abused by all simulation game devs and we like it. They know their product is very niche, they know we can't get our fix anywhere else, and all games and peripherals cost an arm and a leg, you know. It's fine, I guess, as they don't sell as good as Call of Duty game, but we should have some standards of our own, guys. We should expect better if the prices keep increasing. That's all I'm saying. Now, the game has a lot of bugs, as I said. Parked planes in the air, or parked in weird places, or a tree near your spawning point, custom waypoints in the AFP not loading into the avionics. Some cockpits are too bright at night, some people have all sorts of crashes, luckily I don't. Tobii eye tracker not working, luckily I use TrackIR. Yeah, there are a lot of bugs in this. The graphics now, I'll compare the graphics between the sims the best I can. I'll tell you from the start, the lighting is better in 2024, along with the terrain and the trees. No questions about it. I've shown you enough footage in this video to convince you by now, I hope. The cockpit lighting is lacking though, and the streaming makes it look bad at times when the servers can't cope with the demand, leaving you with some low detail meshes and blurry textures until you actually load the damn thing, you know. And again, the streaming of aircraft is over the top and needs to be disabled. Who thought streaming the planes you own is a good idea? It's beyond me. But the seasons, the new trees and the terrain overall look fantastic at times. So nature looks great, a lot better than the previous title. But the town's geometry looks the same, or hell, even worse than the 2020 at times. The lighting into the town seems way better at night though, so I'll not talk much more about graphics, because other than this there's nothing to say really. I still have a problem with how the clouds are rendered and the lighting of the clouds at times, because when there are heavy clouds and it's sunset or sunrise, they shouldn't have this shitty yellowish brown color, but be more cold with blues and gray hues, you know, because the sun has no effect through thick layers of clouds. Duh. The cockpit and the exterior lighting of the planes is pretty bad also, meaning your exterior lights are barely visible if at all, and the cockpit is sometimes blinding you while the floodlighting is lacking. Seriously guys, why are these emissive textures so samey? It looks like there is the same intensity on every button and every switch. And we all know this is not the case in real life. Now, as an environment artist working with these kinds of things for decades now, I must inform Asobo the exterior glows on the lights are fading out too early. If I go close to a light source on the plane, its glow will appear. If I go away, they vanish too fast, making it look like ass. And to be frank, the optimization you're doing with such an aggressive loading is nothing special, guys. Don't tell me 5 or 10 polygons with alpha blending is killing the frame rates. It shouldn't be the case. So yeah, push that fade distance 10 times further, at least. And this is it with the graphics, guys. The game looks glorious most of the time, with the exceptions I mentioned. For me, it's a clear upgrade from the previous title. And to be frank, I can't go back at this point, because yeah, I'm superficial like that. Now the performance. The looks come at a cost, and it's pretty clear. And I have an unpopular opinion here, and some of you might know it by now. I hate DLSS. It might be good for lower end cards, but if I can't brute force a game with one of the best video cards, and by brute forcing I mean disabling DLSS, it's not okay in my book. In both games with no frame gen bullshit and all that, I get around 50ish FPS with ultra in 1440p. Because DLSS blurs the hell out of everything. Yeah, I tried it and couldn't even read the instruments. That's how bad it is. So no idea why Asobo claims this game has better performance, because it doesn't. I haven't tested this extensively. Of course, I just loaded a couple of random airports in both sims and gave it a go. It's even a tad lower at times. The loading times are similar if the servers are up and running, that is. When the hamsters start dying, it's game over. You load for 5 or even 10 minutes, but that doesn't happen often, so it's okay in my eyes. And by the way, I talked from my own experience here. Yours might vary a lot due to the PC specs and the internet provider and speed, just so we are clear. The good news is I could brute force the game to some extent, as I could in the previous title, but the performance is not better by any means. No idea why they said it should be better, because it's not. Take a look for yourself. Now, the bad news: if you're the kind of guy who uses big planes from the biggest international airports, your video card will hate you and your frame rates will be very low. When I fly around random airfields in Alaska, I have plenty of FPS, more or less, but if I go, let's say, to the Chicago International Airport and take off with a big plane, I got 20ish FPS. So if you are that type of guy, you need DLSS, bro. There's no way around it. Or you need to lower the settings. That's what I would do, to be frank, because I can't stand this. Look at the text of the buttons, man. It gets all blurry and stuff. Jesus, such a disgusting, overhyped feature this is. It's unbelievable. Yeah, and now it's even more hype. The DLSS 4 is coming. Keep in mind, these frame rates are with 4090, 64 GB of RAM and the Ryzen 7950 X3D. So yeah, the performance will vary wildly between systems and locations. If you're mainly doing general aviation like me, you'll be fine with a cheaper video card as long as you stay in remote areas. If you want to play with the big stuff, I'll send thoughts and prayers to your PC. Had more or less the same frame rate in 2020 as I've shown you. Now, the second thing that must be said about the performance is the streaming, of course. A lot of people have streaming issues right now because of their internet or server overload. It doesn't even matter, you know. Think of all the Australians that try to play this. Again, guys, I'm sending you thoughts and prayers. Asobo needs to let us download as much as we want. The sounds. A lot of planes sound are not good enough, in my opinion. I've listened to some of the planes on YouTube and it's not even close. Again, I'll compare the sims, so yeah, listen to this. This is what I expect for every plane, guys. This, not less. Unless you do a plane that somehow doesn't exist anymore. You go find one and record it for a day or two before putting it into the game. And before I forget, there is this very annoying bug in 2024 where the engine and pretty much all plane sounds stop playing, so you only hear the wind and stuff. This shit, when it happens after takeoff, when you need to go, I don't know, a long distance, it's very annoying. Not hearing the engine feels bad, so I'd fixed this yesterday. the asobo. The sounds are not perfect in 2020 either. Now, the value for money for me is high because of the amount of hours I'll put over time into flying. I already have 200 or something. But for a lot of people this is pretty bad. So if you're not going to fly this for hundreds of hours, the value for money should be pretty average, I believe, even if you got the standard edition. The marketplace is still off, so God knows what abominations we'll see when it comes online. Fingers crossed, hope for the best, I guess. I tried copying some of the add-ons I have in 2020, but they don't work or just make the game crash, so... And we had some planes enabled at some point after the release, but then they disabled them all before I could even try one. And now the conclusion, because I rambled enough about the game. This is pretty playable, but I feel if you're a pilot or someone who wants to have a very immersive experience following the procedures and stuff, you'll be disappointed. I can't be sure, but it's my guess, based on the state of ATC and the avionics in some of the planes. If the devs didn't focus so much on gamifying the sim and add too much pointless, from my point of view, shit like custom avatars and fauna, the sim would be in a far better state because it's undercooked. While those things are cute and all, it adds nothing to the flying experience, guys, and that should be the only focus of asobo. Every area of the sim is lacking and I don't think it's easy to fix any of it, you know. I don't believe the sim is below 7, but I must give it a 6 for the moment because I don't recommend it for now. For me personally, this is an 8, not a 6. But I can't say I'm not recommending the game and give it an 8, right? Hence the 6. So yeah, the game is not worth your money right now unless you are a diehard simmer. In that case, what's $100 extra for you on top of your thousands of peripherals, right? If you're on Game Pass, sure bro, knock yourself out, it's free for you, but it's not worth the asking price, as it often feels like a downgrade from its predecessor, even if it has some advantages too. So besides the starting planes, every plane I've tried had some issues. Some are trivial, but some are bad, so it degrades the experience by a lot. For general aviation flying in remote areas, the experience is a lot better, but I'm glad I tried the A400M, so I experienced the big plane performance issues. Anyway, this is it with the Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. It's in a sad state right now, but it will become better and better eventually. This is the worst state this game will be. It can only go up from here. The devs are pretty slow with the updates, so yeah, I wouldn't expect miracles in a month or two. Just be patient. Eventually uninstall it and come back in a few months when hopefully they will fix the game. Now, I hate asking for it, but these videos take a while to make, obviously. So if you found this entertaining and informative, hit those buttons and leave a comment, please. Because I love making this, but the algorithm doesn't love me back if you, the viewer, don't give me some feedback, you know. And besides, you can smash the unsubscribe button when you disagree with one of my takes in the future. It's a win-win. I want to make some sort of giveaways at 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, etc. At some point, if I'll be considered worthy, I'll try to involve in these giveaways companies like Moza, Trustmaster, Logitech, if I can. I have no idea how this works, but I'll figure it out once I have more subscribers, you know. At every milestone, I'll do a relevant giveaway based on what videos I'll be making at that moment. So if I play some ARPG, I'll probably give away 1 or 2 copies of that game, you know. But anyway, enough with the shameless plug. Have a great day.